Greetings and salutations, friend. What does it mean to be a creator? What does it mean to use your imagination? What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the universe? I am Jeremy Tank. I am a brand coach and consultant, a master designer, an RTT, which is rapid transformation therapy, hypnotherapist. I am also an expert on behavioral branding. And creativity, using the imagination and understanding the consciousness and the power of creativity, is really what energizes me. That's what gets me going. It's the ability to look at problems that occur in everyday lives, in certainly business. Every day you hit some sort of hiccup, a speed bump, a challenge, right? And how you look at that and how you overcome that challenge really is the determining factor in if you are owning, embracing your full authenticity as a creator. So let's just step back a little bit and understand a little bit about what it means to be here, to be thinking, to be wondering and posturing, and what this is, right? So, generally speaking, if you've listened to me before, you understand that I come from a place in my thought process, in my beliefs, in my understanding of the world and the religions and spirituality, that everything is essentially energy. That you are energy, I am energy, this transmission of video stuff between us is energy. All of this matter around me, at its most basic form, is energy. And if you have to quantify that or think about it in any special way, it's really this. On the scale of infinity, you've got from 0 to positive infinity and from 0 to negative infinity. And the total sum of all of that is energy. And it's infinity. It's infinite. And when you come into this world, when you inhabit a body, when you join with the physical form, what that is the collapse of the waveform that exists in quantum physics. Essentially, all energy is everywhere. It has the possibility of being everywhere at any time. And when you observe it, it becomes very finite. Because you can measure the velocity or the place, the location of a particle. But that's it. You can see how fast it's moving, or you can tell where it is in that point in time, but that's about it. And mostly it's because particles, what you see as physical matter, is actually made up of smaller things and smaller things and smaller things and smaller things. And those particles are energy. And they are moving so fast, and they are moving around everywhere, essentially. And the reason that we can measure velocity is because there's a point of tracking that they can measure, and I'm not a scientist, I am a designer. So here's my understanding of it. They can measure the distance covered and the speed, how long it took to go that distance between the particle. And that is your velocity. And I'd be happy to post a video that really defines this stuff much more, because there's some really exciting stuff going on right now in quantum science showing how this is really affecting us and our experience. And the other one is the location of a subatomic particle, of a piece of something. The thing is, it's not just subatomic particles. It is certainly atoms and molecules. They have measured and done the double slit experiment with a molecule of 266 atoms. That is huge. That is something that can be observed by the human eyes. And what happens is that between knowing a location of something in a brief blip of time and the velocity of it, meaning they can tell how fast it's going, but they don't know where it's going. They don't know what the trajectory is. They really don't know where it's going to be. It turns out that on this weird quantum level, it's really hard to predict the full movement. And on top of that, we have this weird thing that happens where electrons, protons, neutrons, all the quarks that make up these things disappear and reappear. To make it even weirder, these things have entanglement, funky relationships. Einstein called it weird stuff at a distance, right? And basically what's happening is that we find that these energy pieces, ideas, concepts, waves, frequencies, relate to one another on some level, somehow. They become entangled, and when one, think of it like a magnet. When one registers negative, one registers positive. And you can tell what the other is going to be by measuring the first one. Now, they've done a ton of experiments since the 50s, 60s, 70s, like 40s actually even, looking at a lot of this stuff and trying to say, why is this happening? How can a wave of energy be both a particle and a wave? Because that's what we're seeing, is that the energy, the fluid energy of the universe that is all around you, really. Let's think about this, an infinite scope of energy, and you are a particular type of energy, a particular type of energy that creates atoms and molecules, and a particular type of energy that creates particles, that ends up creating systems, combinations. And what we notice with systems, same thing is true in nature, is that a system can be exceptionally elementary, and yet when you combine that with another system, another system, another system, it builds a larger system. And you combine those, and it builds a larger system. You are a system of atoms that grows into cells, that grows into systems, that grows into your body, that grows into civilizations, that grows into the earth, that grows into the universe, or our galaxy, and then the universe. Everything is slightly different when it goes up another system level, but it doesn't change the elementary fact that at a base level, there is energy surging around, through, within, and just encompassing everything that you are. That's exciting, right? Everything. You're like a goldfish and you don't even know it. You are plopped down into this infinite ocean of energy. And yet this weird physical thing called a brain and our system is so limited in its perception that we don't understand, we don't sense, we don't feel all of the energy around us at any given time. And that's kind of fun a little bit, because it gives us an opportunity to go, what the heck is going on? And pretend like we don't know. And at least in my thought process, and also in some the Hindu religion, and also Buddhism and Zen, Tao, when you pass on, you return to a state of energy. You return to a state of being, of consciousness, of super consciousness, of quantum being that exists beyond, around, through this whole physical form. Okay, that's cool. So that means that ultimately you are an energy source flowing into essentially an antenna. Really, when these waveforms combine to create subatomic particles and atoms and molecules and cells, complex structures that get to be where you are, and me, you're essentially funneling your essence down through this antenna that is your body to have this experience of whatever this is, right? And we can make it a horrible experience. We can make it a joyful experience. It really depends on how you observe your situation. And that's part of what quantum science is showing us, is that when we observe certain things, then it collapses the waveforms of the particle energy of the universe. The entire quantum field around you is constantly collapsing the waveforms of possibility. You, by observation, are collapsing waveforms of possibility, and that is showing you through observation what you desire to see, how you choose to see. That's a tricky one right there, because there's choice involved, and yet you are not consciously choosing what's happening, right? For the most part. Why aren't you consciously choosing that? Well, your conscious mind controls only about 5% of your behavior. Your subconscious and other than conscious parts control 95% of your behavior on a daily basis, on any given basis, on a lifetime basis. There's so much psychology that goes into understanding consciousness and the mind, and how the subconscious aspects of ourselves really drive behavior for a long time until we unlearn who we are and who we have learned to become and start to reprogram ourselves in a more positive aspect to become the life, the person, the being that we choose to be, that we fundamentally understand ourselves to be beyond the physical form. And this is a philosophy that's gone back in certainly Buddhism and Hinduism for eons, right? We're talking 5 to 10,000 years, about the point that people actually emerged on the planet. We're talking, basic principles of how we understood us as people at that time. And in the meantime, we've decided to brainwash ourselves and our culture and everything else with a whole variety of beliefs, which, totally understandable. When you're on this planet for such a long time as a civilization as a whole, you get bored with the old beliefs. You start to challenge the status quo. You want to change things and make it yours. We still deal with that from generation to generation now. Millennials always had a beef with the Gen X, and Gen Z is having their hell of a time with millennials now. It's always looking after the generation above and beyond us going, oh, we hate the way that they did it, we're going to change things. Well, the same thing is true with our beliefs and how we are trained to think and structure our lives, our thought processes in and around just generally being. The way that you have been trained, brought up, educated to believe in your life differs from the way that, let's say an ancient Mesopotamian would have been brought up, raised, and believed. The thing is that if you were brought up in that time, it would be the exact same sort of experience. You would think and believe exactly as they do, because that's what you would be brought up to believe. From the time you are actually, before you're born to about 7, you have a huge capacity for education and learning. The brain stays in a theta wave state and just absorbs everything about culture and embraces all types of education to transform you into the type of being that can exist in that time and place. Now, the fun thing about quantum science and the fun thing that it's showing us is that that time and place is not linear. In fact, essentially all of time, all of possibility, all of everything, including space, is occurring simultaneously. At the same time, everywhere, constantly, all around you. Now, what that basically means is that you and your perception of the here and now is a singular perception. Nobody else sees the universe the way that you see the universe. Nobody else experiences life, your feelings, your emotions, your physical attributes the way that you feel them. You are unique and amazing. Right? That's awesome. That's awesome. Nobody can be you. Only you can be you, which means that only you can see, observe, feel, guide yourself through the universe that you are experiencing. Imagine that all the universe is that wavelength, that energy. You being on this particular plane, this particular way of being, have consciousness. And we find, the more that we're examining this stuff, that there are animals that demonstrate levels of consciousness. What we define as consciousness, understanding, reciprocation, feelings, empathy, compassion. There are animals that certainly feel these things. Frustration, anger. And what we see is that the more that we understand plants, they communicate with each other too, chemically, sometimes through sound. So plants are communicating, animals are communicating, we're communicating. It all seems to be this essence of universal consciousness, super consciousness, quantum consciousness, that quantum field thing, all of that energy out there, just the possibility of everythingness. And the idea here is that that is really a consciousness. That is the consciousness. This may be the only consciousness. And you are that consciousness. You are a piece of that consciousness brought down, filtered down right into your body. Imagine that you are actually a black hole. Know anything about black holes? right? They suck in everything around them. They suck in all of the energy of the universe. They are so dense and so gravity-centric, gravity-dense, gravity-heavy, gravity pulling, right? They are the vortex. They are a vortex that pulls all of the energy of the universe right into them, including light. And they let off different particles as like an exhaust of the process. But what we see is that black holes are not just a vacuous suck into nothingness. It's a transformation. And mathematically, when things are sucked down into a black hole, it transitions from a three-dimensional reality to a two-dimensional reality. The information is still there. It's infinitely small. It's infinitely complex. But it shifts. There's a lot of energy in the universe. Now, what if you are that universal energy? What if you are that universal energy and you are the same as every other plant and animal and being, thing, object? Because it's all a source of universal energy, right? It's all that vibration, that frequency at a really high wavelength or low wavelength or any wavelength. For you to observe it, for you to hear and participating in a three-dimensional reality means that somewhere else, energy was filtered down in through all of this for you to experience it. Now that's kind of cool, but that also means that on a fourth dimensional and fifth dimensional level, you are grander than you are. You are so much more than you are through this reality, and that you possibly pass through a black hole, and you are transformed into a three-dimensional reality to experience this. So what's fascinating about that is that if you are that energy, if you are that consciousness, if you are even a piece of that sort of idea, that makes you akin to a soul, a spirit, a Holy Ghost, part of the grand design. You are both the Father at some level, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Different aspects of being and consciousness dictated by the level of you and where your awareness is placed. So within that awareness is the power of the Creator. If you are at the higher level, part of that superconsciousness, part of the God idea, part of Atman, part of Brahman, part of the universe, then that means you are the creator of everything, because through your observation, here and now, actually, according to quantum physics, through this observation, by you examining what you see, just observing it, and I don't mean just touching, tasting, seeing, hearing, smelling things. You see, that is part of the illusion of life. Your brain makes up those decisions. It's a moment between reality and what your brain actually perceives. The observation happens when this part of you, the neocortex, the prefrontal cortex, the parts of you that drive logic, kind of make the next steps. Okay, this is what's happening. This is how it is. That story that you tell yourself to make up reality as you know it is super powerful. Because that collapses the wave functions of the quantum field. That collapses the possibility functions of everything around you and starts to create it to match the reality that you choose to perceive. Choice collapses the wave function. And we recognize that the brain knows no difference between the past, the present, and the future as we are standing and sitting and playing in imagination. It makes no difference. As we imagine the past, we can get just as worked up, just as angry, just as frustrated about crap that happened yesterday or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, if we let it. And according to Joe Dispenza, the more time we spend looking backwards, evaluating things that went wrong, complaining about everything that went wrong, the more that we actually in ourselves poison the now. Because we're living in the past. That doesn't do any good for now. Now is not then. Ever. On an energetic level, you are constantly moving forward. There is no backwards. You are in the stream, the current, the river of the universal energy, and you cannot move backwards. You do not swim upstream. You don't grow younger. You grow wiser. So the interesting thing is that when we imagine the future. When we plan for the future, imagine for the future, Abraham Hicks likes to say, step into it, own it, imagine it, embrace it, feel it as if it was real, as if it was right now, yours, completely and wholly yours. And when you do that, the universe listens. That universal vortex, which is the quantum field, which is all of that energy ready to deliver everything to you as you want it to. When you do that, it creates a connection between you and the universe. Abraham Hicks calls that the vortex. Sorry, there's a cat hair in my glasses that keeps tickling me. Love the cats, hate the hair sometimes. So you've got this vortex that wants to deliver stuff to you if you can match to it. And when you draw that line through the universe, when you set your mind there, there's a great book, it's all about the quantum science, so I'm not even going to share it because it's really kind of high level stuff that really talks about how when quantum science is based on the observer, based on somebody observing it first, then other people can co-create their reality by observing it next, by collaborating with that actual reality. But it takes more than one person to actually agree on that reality, because any of us can see something in our reality and that brings it into truth. But until the point that one person sees it, it doesn't exist in reality. Until one person observes it, it does not exist in reality. Well, on a fundamental level, we understand that's true. If something doesn't happen until it happens, then it's true, right? If you don't see it until it happens, then you know it's true because it happened. This is how Earth, the Big Bang, all of us, history, that's how it's made, because somebody observed it to get to the point that you can be here. It's a cause and effect. It's a chicken and egg. You can't have one without the other. That's the unity of the universe. It has its own timetable. It has its own schedule, its own way of being, because we observe at some level at some time. And because enough people have been around and shared and observed, it continues to be. And here's where the power of being a creator actually comes in. Because through observation, we create reality. That's just base quantum science. That is what that double slit experiment really, truly means. That's the important part. By observing it, we create reality. We collapse the wave function and assure that something happens. And in our minds, through imagination, we can actually collapse that wave function, create quantum entanglement for the future, and bring ourselves to the point that that is the reality. Of course, we're in an ocean of energy, so things change, things shift, things go downstream, things get caught up in a slide current. Things aren't always exactly as we imagine and dream them to be, and that's okay. Control is a trauma response from this physical, trained reality. The brain, the subconscious, the body, all of these parts work together to keep us safe, to keep us balanced and moving forward in physical reality. That's just biological training, caveman thinking, Neanderthal thinking, lizard brain thinking, right? So here's the interesting one, because this is ultimately where I wanted to get to today, because if there is the idea that you are a creator because you come into this life through this body, through this point of experience, and you observe, that makes you a creator of your reality. And by token, you are a co-creator because every other person out there is creating their reality based on their perceptions, their truth, their beliefs, their behavior. They are creating the things that they believe should exist in their reality. The things that they don't believe that they exist in their reality, they don't allow themselves to have. More's the shame. So if we follow that chain of thought, we understand that by taking control, by understanding that just by imagining, just by creating and walking that path, right? Knowing is half the battle. Thank you, G.I. Joe. Knowing is half the battle. Doing is the other half. We can know something, but then we have to take action to create movement from intention. That is actually the differentiating factor between wave and particle. Wave is everywhere until we observe it. Particle is observable and has an action and a momentum. It moves, we see, it tracks. That is us in the physical form. So as a co-creator, you have a special power. As one who is here in this world, in this time, in this living space, you have a special power. And that special power is creativity. As a designer, as a fine artist, as a singer, as a poor dancer, expression through creativity creates universes. If the brain makes no difference between the past, present, and future, and we can create the future by quantum entangling our neurons, our thoughts, our patterns with that reality that we choose in the quantum field, and we collapse that wave function through our thoughts, through our actions, through our processes, through our focus, right? It takes about 17 seconds to really create an entangled reality. The reality that we want, the reality we're going to move towards in that quantum stream, that current, that movement, with the reality that we are now, this point, this place. We are never stagnant. We are constantly moving. So choosing the course that you want to go, well, that's just smart. Any good person in a rowboat or a sailboat knows that you need to have an idea where you're going in order to point the boat in the right direction. And that's all we're doing when we think of the future and imagine that point. But here's the point. All of that, past, present, and future, that's for normal people. Here's your superpower. You ready? You are actually God. And here's why. If your brain has the power through observation, which observation, again, is not any of the external senses. It is internal. It is in your brain. It is when that process gets going, the emotions that are involved there that really get things going. And that means when you dive in with imagination and you are imagining a story, a sonnet, a poem, a powerful song, a dance that rivets the heart, when you are writing a story, when you are painting a picture, when you are drawing, doodling, making a comic book, when you are doing anything that expresses your ideas, your concepts, your vision, your imagination, your creativity, you are creating a universe through the token of the quantum field. And the more people that you actually get on board with that, the more people that hear you, that cheer you, that thrill you, that can't wait for your next story, that can't wait to share the next experience with you, dance with you, emote with you. The more people that are buying into the shared reality that you are creating through your godly powers. What effect does that have on our normal life? I don't know. How about, let's look at the Star Trek phenomena. Through the time of the original Star Trek, right? Gene Roddenberry created this entire world with transporters and scanny devices and cool things. And what have we done since the 60s that series started to come out? We've tried to make it reality. There have been so many people that bought into the truth of that reality, the ideas behind that reality, that we have not only created entire series, for entertainment purposes, but people have driven their entire lives toward the goal of creating the things in that fiction. That's how you create universes. That's how you create a whole new reality. You create it through your imagination. That is a superpower. Through imagination, through creativity, through expression, through art, right? Frankly, it comes down to that. It comes through art, storytelling, emoting, things that make you feel good, things that other people get behind because it's a common shared human experience, drives the possibility of a new reality. Because it's up here. Because your imagination, your creativity, everything that makes you you comes through you, and other people buy into it, and they send their energy right to that, and that thought, that quantum possibility starts to collapse even more. That wave function starts to collapse even more, bringing it down to the point of truth in reality, that it is just an eventuality, not just a possibility. And you have that power. Because that's just the power of play, of creative play, of having fun, of imagining new things, of taking a part in your head and saying, what if? What if? So that's the power that you have, the power of creativity, the power of creation, the power of reality. You are not just a co-creator, you are a powerful creator of your own universe. And you should stand proud in that. Again, my name is Jeremy Tank. If you're interested in the work that I do, I am my corporate branding work. Check me out on thinktankcreative.net. My process is called Manifest Design. I'm helping small business owners through Manifest Design really get their vision, their brand, their ideas of where they want to go, the beliefs, the values that they want to live by, nailed down, and then start creating priorities and goals to get there. That's really some brand coaching, taking control of your brand, taking control of how you influence people through your creativity, through your resources, your relationships, your communication, choosing the right words and the right pictures to influence the world through who you are. So give that a shot. Check it out, thinktankcreative.net. You can also schedule a free 30-minute consultation on there. I love talking with people. I love hearing, just what you think about my videos, what you think about me, what you think about brand in general, and what you are worried about in the world. Because, understanding what you are worried about helps you transform and look at the other side of that. What you can be excited about, what you are building, what you are moving towards. That's powerful stuff. And so, at the end of the day, like, share, comment, tell me what you like, tell me what you love, tell me what you want to learn more about any of this stuff. And thank you. Take care. Bye.